This is fine. This is fine. This is a poor substitute for therapy, but an excellent substitute for other podcasts.
We're not like other podcasts.
Join us as we find the answers to the universe's biggest questions like, is butter a carb? Does crying burn calories? And what the fuck am I doing with my life? We're here to be your part-time therapist, astrologer, concierge doctor, and fairy godmother. Do you need someone to validate you today? Cool. Come on in. We're fine. This is fine. Hey cuties, welcome back. We've got a kick back and relax, chat with your girlfriends, learn from your really cool big sister who's lived in Paris 20 years kind of vibe today. If you have ever had a Paris fantasy or are simply curious about hearing someone's perspective from living in Paris, maybe you want to know the best places to eat here, or you're curious about the origin story of eau de toilette and why it's literally called toilet water. Maybe you want to play a game of rapid fire this or that France edition at the end. If so, if you've answered yes to any of that, buckle up. Make yourself a coffee or pour yourself a glass of wine. Both of us today have pinball brains, so we are about to go on a journey together. Today, we've got Tessa Bicard, fellow Californian, Parisian by choice for 2 decades, and essentially my Paris big sister and career mentor. She is fluent in French, a perfume/beauty/skincare connoisseur, a Sagittarius, and a dog mom to 2 adorable babies, Roxy and Marcel. And you may already know her as your tour guide and restaurant aficionado on TikTok and Instagram at Madame Tartampion. I am so excited for you to get to know her more today on our episode. Let's do it. All right, Tessa, thank you so much. Welcome to the show. It's your first time. I know it will not be the last time. Thank you for coming on This Is Fine.
Yay!
Yay! Are you fine today?
I am fine today. And you know, one of the reasons that I'm fine today is because I actually listened to the episode that you just put out.
Oh my God, thanks.
About like career and how you're feeling about that. And that was very inspiring to hear.
No way. I inspired you?
Yeah, totally.
You inspire me.
Oh.
This is a weird role reversal.
No, but it was super interesting. And I feel like a great sort of mindset to consider how do we place our own value on our lives, on what we're doing, on what we're being.
Ourselves.
Yeah.
Our self-value, right? Yeah. I think that that's a big thing that has changed for me since moving here, which I know we have conversations about this a lot. And I'm excited to have more conversations today about these kind of cultural changes that we've experienced that I never would have expected, especially like I didn't think moving to Paris would impact my self-worth as I identify. You know what I mean? Like, how will this impact how I identify?
Totally.
So weird. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry, we got into that real fast.
We're just diving into the detail. This is a classic example of one of our conversations, and it will bounce around quite a bit.
Yeah.
Tessa has some strong Gemini energy coming at us, and Sagittarius. And then I've got the Virgo, so we're just like mutable. We're moving with the winds, the changing tides. Like we are just ping, 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 ping. So buckle up for this one. Tessa, I know we have so many different things to talk about, but I would love to kick it off with what a lot of people know you for on the internet. You are an American in Paris. Yes. You've got all the fun facts. You've got all the good places to eat. You have been living here since your 20s on and off for 10, 12 years?
20 years.
Oh,
holy cow.
Okay,
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Way more than I pegged you.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually moved here initially. Quick intro to myself. So yes, I am Madame Tartampion is my handle.
And what does that mean?
On the socials. So a Tartampion, or if you say like Monsieur Tartampion or Madame Tartampion in French, it means like Mrs. Whoozy Whatsy or like face? Jane Doe. Yeah, what's her face? Exactly. So because when I started posting on these channels, I didn't really want to get into my personal life very much. I wanted to be kind of an anonymous, one of the 14,000 or more Americans that live in Paris, because there are quite a few of us actually.
Already hitting us with the fun facts.
And I didn't really want to get into necessarily my personal life so much. I know some people like that's their deal, that's their niche. They really get personal. They talk about their own what's going on in their lives. I really wanted to put the focus on Paris. Cool. So I chose the handle Madame Tartampion, and I post a lot on TikTok and on Instagram. And like you said, fun facts about Paris, a little history, a little culture, great places to shop and eat and check out and
smell nice things.
Love the perfume. Yes, of course.
You're in the right place. I was like, oh, we're going to probably play perfumes on this episode.
Yes, please.
So I would love to maybe get like an overview. This is like a bigger question I'm putting on the spot of living in Paris in your 20s, 30s, and beyond. And if you've noticed a shift in the different eras, like Eras Tour, Tessa's version.
Yes, absolutely. So I initially moved here when I was 20. As a student. It was my junior year abroad program. And I had never really been outside the country before. That's not true. I had been to Toronto, Canada. One time.
Yeah. Super different.
Super different. Yeah. Like culturally, like, wow.
It's a great city though.
Oh, I know. I love Toronto. But yes, very, very naive, very fresh off the boat. Quite literally. I didn't know a soul in Paris and I barely spoke the language. I had taken a couple of courses in college, but really kind of remedial type French. And I was placed at the Sorbonne in the wrong segment of the school. So I was actually supposed to be with the other foreign students. They have like a sort of a section of the school that's for foreign. School. Well, it's like you'll learn
it's like English as a second language kind of.
Yes,
program.
exactly.
Okay,
so they'll have simplified language. You're still learning other topics like art history
but the language is down regulated.
Yes,
is that the word I'm looking for?
Yes, it's simplified, and they provide a lot more written resources and materials and stuff like that. And this was in 2004. So before everyone had laptops and, we all had Google on our phone and Google Translate and stuff like that. Very different time. Literally, I was walking around with like a little personal French English dictionary because my French was very, very basic.
Wait, that's so sweet and also so analog.
Very analog, very analog. So I moved here when I was 20. Yes. And had to pick up French very, very quickly because I realized I was in the wrong section of the Sorbonne.
Yeah.
But I was on a scholarship.
Oops.
Yeah. Oops. And very typical French response when I went into change and tell them like, hey, I'm literally in the regular art history class with like all these French students and I can barely decipher the individual words that you're saying, let alone actually be able to pass this class.
Yeah.
I went into the admissions office and they had the very typical French like, not my problem.
Bummer.
Response. And so I was like sweating because I was like, okay,
this is do or die now.
This is do or die. I was a scholarship student. And if I didn't maintain a certain level of grades, I would have lost my scholarship.
And they didn't even care that you were in the wrong level. Oh
no.
My gosh, that does feel French.
So I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? After lots of tears, literally, I think the first month that I moved here, it was the most rough month of my entire life. I think I cried every single day because it was such a huge cultural shock. And
there was no like transit or like runway,
no.
Right? Like you just got literally dropped into the ocean with no swimming lessons.
Yes. And like, go for it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, let me strategize. What's my plan here? What's my gameplay? Either I move home and I just like throw in the towel or I figure it out. And so I got myself a French boyfriend real quick.
That's one way to figure it out.
Honestly, that was one of the, I hate saying this.
It's okay. It's a safe place.
But it's one of the best ways to learn a foreign language.
Yep.
If you are spending lots of time with someone who doesn't speak your native language, you are forced into social situations and meeting their friends and spending time with their friends, etc. It's honestly one of the ways that I learned French and
the best crash course possible.
Totally.
And it's free, kind of. It's free monetarily. Comes at another cost.
It definitely. And, so I picked up French amazingly pretty quickly because I was spending so much time with my French boyfriend and his friends at the time. And I specifically was like, I can't really hang out with all of the study abroad kids.
Right.
Because we'll all speak English and I'm not going to improve my French that way.
Totally. I've noticed that even just recently. Yeah.
So I'm actually grateful that I moved here in the early 2000s when, like I said, internet was not a thing that you could carry around in your pocket.
Yeah.
There were internet cafes that you would literally have to go to, pay €4. I remember paying €4 for like a half an hour so I could sit down and shoot off a couple of emails to my mom, to my friends back home. We didn't even have webcams at the time.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
No.
Skype was like Skype your friends. No.
Skype came a little bit later, actually. I think it was like a year or two after my first year here. I didn't have a computer at all. like didn't even have a computer.
Dude, what? This is blowing my mind.
I know, that's how old I am.
No, I'm just like envious of this in so many ways. Like, what an amazing time to really be present.
It forced me to, honestly, I'm very grateful that that was my first experience in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
As difficult as it was, it forced me to learn the language and the culture and to really be in it.
And your navigating is amazing. I walk with Tessa, you guys, and she doesn't even look at her phone. She's like, it's this way. And I'm like, what?
I would sit there. Okay, so one of the few things that I did carry around with me in my pocket, I had a French-English dictionary, and I had a Paris Pratique, which is basically a map of Paris. And so what do you do these days? What do you do if you are waiting for the bus for 5 minutes? You pull out your phone, check Instagram, whatever it is.
Sure, yeah.
What I did back in 2004 is I would pull out my Paris map and I would sit there and study my map.
Oh my God.
So
Wait, you're going to love this. Hold on. I have something to show you. For anyone
Do you have a
listening.
Paris Pratique?
I'm pulling out a vintage thing that I have.
Is this a map?
Yeah, it's like a vintage, I want to say from the 70s.
It's
so cool.
Gosh. Dom, do you know that I am obsessed with maps?
Wait.
I am obsessed with maps. This is the coolest thing. I haven't seen one this old.
I actually brought it from the US. I found it on some like vintage store.
Dying.
And it has like the old metro map. Isn't that crazy?
This is so cool.
Like, I might have the best timetables. I don't know.
Okay. I'm going
But for anyone listening, it's a vintage map of Paris in a tiny little book.
This is so pretty. So yes. So I would spend time looking at maps, and now I have a pretty good geographic knowledge of Paris. And also just I would spend time walking around. I was a nanny, and so I would pick up my little boy Antoine every day after his school.
How old is Antoine now?
Antoine is 22.
I wonder if he's listening out there.
I doubt it, but if he is, bonjour. It was a simpler time.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very like nostalgic and silly.
No, it sounds incredible because I'm like, gosh, like the difference, like even just saying waiting for the bus, waiting for the metro, what would I do? Would I just stand there like without my phone? And it's such an interesting thing because I don't want to be on my phone all the time. But then I feel like I'm just standing there like a dummy.
Yeah.
But that's normal.
That's totally normal.
Yeah.
I also listened to a ton of music with my portable CD player.
Heck yeah. Walkman.
Yeah, Walkman, and that would skip from time to time. And did a lot of, studying, got through my classes by the skin of my teeth. Amazingly was able to keep my scholarship. And I think it is during the course of that first year, which was very trialing, very difficult for me, I fell in love with Paris. And I fell in love with the culture, and I fell in love with the language, which I already had a love for the French language. That's why I even came to Paris to begin with. It wasn't so much that I had this Eiffel Tower, sparkly idea of Paris in my head. I wasn't one of those people who was like, oh, I'm obsessed with Paris all growing up, blah, blah, blah. I was obsessed with the French language.
Cool.
And I always wanted to learn it. But living in California, growing up in California, you're like, okay, cool, this is not very helpful. So I did like all the way through AP Spanish in high school. And I loved that. I also loved the Spanish language, but I always wanted to learn French. So when I eventually got to university, there was a Romance language major, which was French and Spanish.
That's so cool.
And because my Spanish was so good, but my French was super basic, when it came time to choose your study abroad destination, I was like, well, I better do a French speaking country.
So I can pick this up. Yeah.
So that's what brought me to Paris. But it was the full immersion into the French language by fire, if you will, that brought me to truly love and appreciate Paris on a different level, on a very, very deep level.
Yeah.
So after that first year here, I was like, okay, this is where I need to be.
Totally.
And that's what brought me back.
And we talked to Daniel on this podcast as well, immigration attorney, Daniel Tostado, about the sort of misconception, or almost not propaganda, that sounds so aggressive, but there's sort of a message going around that like, oh, you don't need to learn French to live here. Like, you can come here with your English. And I keep wanting to say, like, don't rest on that. No. Really put yourself, like, even if you don't think you're a language person, into your studies, because of what you just said. Like, the connection that you can foster with people and culture is exponentially greater when you do learn the language. Like, I'm still in that process of learning, and I feel a deeper connection every moment.
I would definitely say And I would encourage anyone who is interested in Paris or interested to come and live here. The language is an absolute necessity.
Yep.
And does it need to be perfect? No. My French is not perfect, although I am considered bilingual at this point.
Mm-hmm. I think it's perfect.
I still make mistakes, just like everyone does. But it has allowed me to make French friends, French family now,
Husband.
because I'm married to a French dude, and really appreciate my adopted culture and country on a very, very deeper level. I can understand the cultural context now. I can understand jokes. I can understand references, even if I don't feel them in the same way that someone who grew up with them did.
Sure.
I can understand them at least from like the language perspective.
Yeah, you're tapping in a different way.
Yeah.
Totally. So it kind of brings up the question for me, because you've evolved in these different stages of life and in your language development, through dating, through marriage. A lot of people are like, oh my God, Paris in your 20s, but not a lot of people talk about Paris in your 30s. What's your POV?
Okay. So Paris in your 20s, I spent all of my 20s here. Literally, I moved here when I was 20 and I moved back to California actually when I was 30.
Okay.
Lived in California for 8 years and now I'm back in Paris for the past 4 years. Yeah. And so those formative years of your 20s, which is so fun and so free and so, I don't know, scrappy.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in crappy little shitbox apartments that were tiny, but they were in cool neighborhoods. And so I just spent all my time outside. I lived with different roommates at different times. I dated a ton. Like it was so fun and free. And I'm so grateful for that time. And then in your 30s, I think, because I didn't spend my whole decade of my 30s here. I spent a couple of years here in my 30s. And
that's enough.
It's enough. At this time, it was really interesting because I spent the early part of my 30s back in California, establishing my career on a much deeper basis, ended up purchasing a house, like all of those kind of like milestones.
Big like grown-up things.
Yeah,
that
big
people talk
grown-up
about.
things. Yeah. I don't have my own children. I do have 2 stepchildren, but there was a lot of other milestones that I hit during my, early to mid 30s. And then moving back here in my mid to late 30s has been, I was really curious about how that was going to feel moving back, knowing that was I idealizing Paris and my experience there because it was in my 20s?
Right. You had this romantic experience.
Yeah. And like that idea of, I was going out to the clubs like 3 nights a week and just hanging
dancing
out.
Queen.
Dancing queen. Like, and, drinking too much with my friends and sleeping in, blah, blah, blah. Like all of those things that you can do when you're in your 20s and you don't necessarily have the responsibilities that you do into your 30s.
You can do that anytime. Speak for yourself, ma'am.
I mean, you definitely can. I don't know how awesome you're going to feel the next day.
True, it's different.
Yeah, it's different when you develop anxiety and all that fun stuff in your mid-30s.
Dancing, it's fun.
You definitely can. But I have, naturally tapered that off a little bit.
Yeah. Your lifestyle is different.
Lifestyle is different. And I knew also moving back, reinserting myself into my French friend group here.
Yeah.
Because actually, for all of my 20s, I didn't have that many American or English speaking friends. It was mostly my French friends.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And I love them. They're amazing. I'm still friends with them today. But I knew that at this point, all of them had kids, babies.
They're big milestones, but here.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of them had moved out to the suburbs or had purchased a home or whatever. Like they're hitting their milestones here. And so I was like, is this going to be some big disconnect? Am I going to feel sad and nostalgic for those days? Or is it going to be like exciting and fun because this is a new chapter? And mostly it's been the latter. It feels like very different than Paris in my 20s, but I'm experiencing and appreciating different sides of Paris in a very different way. I'm also very grateful to have met so many amazing other Americans and Anglophones in Paris this time, which was not my experience in my 20s.
I wonder why.
Honestly, so I've thought about this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did I even meet our American friend group? How did we meet? Initially, it's because I started following some people on TikTok.
It's the internet.
Yes, the internet.
Oh my gosh, because that's how I'm here. The internet. Like,
exactly. And it's, you see other people talking about Paris. You see other people and you're like, hey, that's a kind of cool chick. Like, would love to meet her. Let's meet up for coffee. Back in the 2000s, the, oh my gosh, I'm dating myself so bad.
That's okay.
There was this publication called the Fusec.
Okay.
It still exists. It still exists online, not in paper anymore, but it was like a weekly publication, which was essentially classified ads for Anglophones.
Cool.
And so it would be, someone looking for a babysitter or a nanny. We're doing this conversation club. Here's a book club that you can attend, blah, blah, blah. That was Facebook at the time.
Whoa.
That was the
paper Facebook in France.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And you could pick it up in like the Frog and the Princess or like the English bars or whatever, or pubs.
I was like when you said Frog and Princess, I was like in London.
No, there's a Frog and Princess here. Yeah. The Frog pubs is kind of an English pub chain. The other thing that you could do, and that I did quite often, is I attended the American church in Paris.
Oh yeah, and right across the river. Yeah.
Well, there's the American church, which is across the river, and then the American cathedral. But they would at these American churches or the cathedral, you could also see like quite literally a corkboard.
Bulletin.
A bulletin,
Yeah.
And like grab information about like, we're having this dinner, we're having a potluck, and like that's how you would meet other English speakers.
Okay.
Or other Americans.
Cool. But that seems like a lot of work compared to, I met this person on TikTok, let's go get coffee.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also a lot of like social pressure. It's like anytime you're meeting,
it's like dating.
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and because I already had started to establish a French friend group, those were the people that I hung out with. And so I didn't really feel the need necessarily to
explore more,
go and find English speakers.
Wow. You really got like almost a time capsule experience.
I did.
Of like the two different ways of moving here, experiencing friendship, connecting with other people, integrating. Do you think it's impeded your integration the second time around by having too many English speaking friends?
It's just so different.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really grateful for all of my English speaking friends.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we
we hang out.
But yeah, it's just an interesting thing. Like, I feel like at least among our friends, the people we know, everyone is very interested in integrating.
Yes.
And speaking French. And many of our friends work in French or have French partners. And I think that probably helps a lot because I don't think we're too insular, if that makes sense.
It's definitely crossed my mind to be like, is it impeding some of the possible integration? Like if you didn't have access to your English speaking friends, your American friends that you have, would you have gone or needed to go through a similar scenario that I went through in my 20s, where it's like, you don't have any choice. Like you have to pick up the language immediately or you're going to be completely isolated from society.
Yeah. I think probably.
Yeah. To a certain extent, I think that's
the friends
the
that
case.
I've made like outside of like our English speaking friends are French speaking. So I'm like, I probably just would have been heavier on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm grateful for sure, technology, but I can definitely see a huge difference from people who are immigrating these days versus before of you have Google Translate on your phone.
Yeah.
You can send out an email instead of having to make a phone call.
Yep. That is, I know we talk about this a lot.
Yes.
Can't make a phone call.
You can use ChatGPT to like refine your language and even say like, I need this to be in formal business French.
Right.
Let me just plug it into ChatGPT.
I actually need you to give me a crash course on how to use my arch nemesis to my benefit.
Yes. ChatGPT has...
I could refine my email. Instead, I'm out here like raw dogging my like tippy tappies on my phone being like, does this sound right? Like,
no, it's incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
But it's like a crutch. It's so easy that you don't have to learn.
you're using your brain in a different way.
Yeah, totally.
Because you're still learning. When I'm using Google Translate, I'm retaining the information. I'm using Google Translate to actually learn something the same way I would look at like a physical dictionary, right? I'm like, I would have to look that up word by word. It's just quicker. And does that mean we retain it less because we didn't have to work as hard to retain that information?
1,000%.
Yeah.
I believe that.
So it's like, maybe it needs a little more reinforcement. So we're going through different, maybe neural pathways to get to that information. So yeah, it's something good I think to be conscious of, to be cognizant of, like, okay, if I'm using this, I want to make sure I also physically write it down. And I do that sometimes. I keep a journal and I'm like, okay, every once in a while, I'm like, I need to refine, like, I don't really know some of these conjugations and I need to just write it down. Or this thing that keeps popping up that I keep forgetting, like, do I use ne que or do I use seulement? I'm like, okay, I actually need to like spend a few minutes and like pencil that in and write it down and reinforce it.
But that's also because you have a propensity for language learning. You're interested in a desire. Totally. I think that, and like, absolutely, everyone has their own interests and their own directions.
Not everyone's like that.
Not everyone's like that.
And I forget that not everyone's the same as me.
It's so weird. So I think that there is probably a group of people who are not necessarily interested in learning the French language. They really like the lifestyle here.
Right.
Or they're interested in Paris.
And they like the end result of being able to communicate with people.
Exactly.
But the process
is not the same.
Yeah. You almost have to force yourself to fall in love with the process.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You have to force yourself to fall in love with the learning process, because guess what? Even after being here on and off for 20 years.
Married to a literal French person.
I'm still learning every single day.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy the process. I specifically will pick up French novels and read French books, because that is the best way to take your French from okay to really deep, good, like solid professional French.
Yeah. I was just talking to Trish about this the other day. I'm like, I need to find a good French book, because I'm at a pretty hard plateau, I would say. And I'm like, I need to break through this. I need to read a book.
Read books, and specifically novels, because I feel like that has been it's enjoyable for me. And so it doesn't feel like a chore of like
it's a story.
It's a story.
Exactly.
And if you get into the story, then
it's almost like you're not like, it's sort of like when you dance instead of exercising, right? Yes. Dance is exercise, but when you're doing that instead of like, lifting a dumbbell, it feels more fun. It's like, oh, I'm not exercising, I'm moving in a fun way.
Totally.
There's a podcast that I've talked about it on this podcast before called Inner French. And when I first started like really picking it up, he tells stories or talks about different topics that are really interesting, like the science of happiness or having a routine or French politics, anything you might be interested in very, I would say, like metered and well dictated French. Like he has very articulating the words very precisely. He's not speaking à la vitesse parisienne. Yeah. And it's really nice to learn as you're hearing about a topic you're interested in. So it's sort of like the oral equivalent of a novel or reading a book. But I would say for me, I think the book is going to be the next big step. Yeah.
Well, and the amount of resources that are out there these days for language learning is unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, of course you have your Duolingos and your Babbel and stuff like
Monday,
that.
Like $5.99 now.
But you have like, oh my gosh, Netflix. You can stream shows and movies in French
with the French subtitles. Like
that was not a thing when I first moved here.
You're like, I had to analog the shit out of my language.
Everything was analog. I had to listen to the I would literally tune into a French radio station, like on AM radio that I found in California.
Yeah, that commitment though, it is so evident in the way. Like I know we're not speaking in French right now for everyone listening, but like she speaks flawless French. Like I see her like in her office spaces, working with people, making phone calls for me, ordering pizza. It's incredible. It's honestly, for me as someone who like aspires to be on her level, it's very inspiring. That's why I was so, when you opened this up with like hearing something that I said and being inspired, I'm like, that's not possible because you're my blueprint.
Stop it. No, I do tend to put myself in the position of like, okay, someone needs to go talk to the waiter. Tessa, go, please.
Mommy.
Go.
Yeah.
Mom.
Literally. And it's funny because like I'm so used to being like mom friend and like other situations, and here it really does kind of like bring you back to like you feel almost like a helpless child when you're not 100% there yet.
Oh, totally.
And we talk about this a lot with when we have friends and family visiting, and this is no disrespect to friends and family, but sometimes when you're in a new country, you don't speak the language at all. You sort of default to I am baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You fall back into naturally I don't want to say helpless because that's not it at all. You just don't know all of the cultural cues as someone who lives here and speaks the language. You might not understand the transportation system. You might not understand where to even see the names of the streets as you're walking around.
I've had people ask me that. Where are the street names?
Yeah, because they're not on like
exactly
posts or
where
whatever.
you're used to it. Right.
Exactly. And so obviously there's going to be a certain amount of intimidation and am I doing the right thing? And like definitely this desire of like, I don't want to look like an idiot.
Totally.
I explore a lot of these topics on my social media content. On Madame Tartampion, because Paris is the most visited city in the entire world. And a huge amount of the tourists that are coming here are Americans. There's
a love affair.
There is a love affair. There's something there between America and Paris specifically. And I also know that a lot of Americans that are coming to visit here are first-time travelers.
First time even leaving the country.
Yeah,
because it is a big place. For me, this was my first place leaving the country. Like case in point,
and same.
I was 18. My family didn't travel when I was growing up. I never had that luxury, that privilege, opportunity to see more of the world. And the first time I did, this was the very first place I wanted to come see. So I've been in that person or that group of people's shoes.
Totally.
Yeah. Was that your first as well? Or no, you said Toronto.
I went to Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto took your travel V card.
Took my travel V card. That's even why I even had to have a passport initially. But no, it was my first time.
Yeah.
First time in a non-English speaking country for sure.
Yeah, and even if you don't plan on moving here, like we ended up moving here, it's like it is a really special place for a lot of people to start.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So yes, defaulting back into that sort of childlike awe and also like, what the heck am I doing?
Totally.
I definitely feel the onus of trying to make sure that people have the best time that when they're here.
Felt so deeply.
and that also means like there's a lot of herding. I don't know.
Herding cats.
Trying to help people, but also, I don't know, not making them feel infantilized.
Exactly. That's the thing. Because the things that we're saying are not intentionally like infantilizing anyone. And you can feel a sense of helplessness. I've been there. Like when I go to a place and I don't speak the language, I'm not thinking I'm a helpless baby, but there's a sense that I feel like, oh, I do feel a little helpless because I can't look up an entire conversation on Google Translate in Greek right now. Right. And I'm like, but I want to be able to communicate with this person. And it can be a little, overwhelming.
I think that's mostly the feeling.
Yeah, it's like a bit of a barrier to entry for a lot of people, I would say, in terms of international travel.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm actually preparing I have some cousins that are coming in this afternoon. And so I'm preparing for like, okay, we're going to have a little tour day around Paris. Where do I want to take them? Where is like the quintessential Parisian places that people want to go? But also what are some of the under the radar things that I would really like for them to experience that isn't just like, I mean, okay, here's the worst travel advice for Paris. You want to know this?
Please.
Okay. The worst piece of travel advice for Paris is to go to ChatGPT. Love the technology, but do not go to ChatGPT and be like, design a trip in Paris for me. Because how ChatGPT works, of course, is it's going to scour all of the resources on the internet.
Before 2022.
And compile it all into, okay, this is what I see the most frequently. So, of course, it's going to be the overwhelmingly tourist spots that it's going to suggest.
Very, very, very popular.
Very, very popular. I'm not saying they're bad spots.
Exactly. But there are very trafficked, very, very busy, crowded places.
And like they've become almost overly cliche.
Yeah.
When I first moved here, for example, Café de Flore, Les Deux Magots.
Les Deux Magots. I still love Les Deux Magots, actually.
Oh my gosh, you're so basic. No.
I love it though. It's just so good.
Those places, you go there today, there is a line every single time. When I first moved here, I didn't even know that those places were necessarily famous for their literary history. And so but it was very close to my university. So I'd go and sit in Les Deux Magots.
You're so cool.
Apparently, and like have a coffee and study there.
Yeah. I bring my journal there sometimes. I'll go with Stella. I'll bring my little journal and I'll sit down and have a chocolat chaud and just vibe. I like it.
And so, yes, there are these like touristy spots. You just don't want to make that your entire trip. So that's why I say don't go on ChatGPT and look it up. However, I have learned playing tour guide to probably hundreds of people at this point in Paris. There is a certain, like, you want to honor someone's desire to experience maybe some of those touristy spots.
They're landmarks. And some people really do want to go to Café de Flore and take the little picture outside with their little egg cup.
And absolutely do that. That's why I always ask people, what would make your trip to Paris so special?
Yeah. What's the most important thing for you? Yeah. What's the experience you're trying to have?
And some people are like, I do not want to go to any of the tourist places. I want to live like a local as much as I possibly can. Great. We can do that. But some people are like, it is my dream to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower.
Yep.
I don't want to stifle that.
That's
an amazing dream for people.
And like, let people like things.
Yes,
that's the biggest thing.
Exactly. So everyone can have their own experience in Paris, and whatever your dream trip to Paris is, there is value in that. Just know that.
Yep. So for the people who are like, okay, well, I'm not going to do ChatGPT, but how should I plan my trip? Follow you.
Follow Madame Tapampion. I think that if you can possibly reach out to someone who lives here. I know that myself and other people do consultations for I'm planning a trip to Paris and I just want a insider's tips or their direction or whatever.
Yep.
If you have access to that, that's great.
Yep.
If not, then there's a lot of really good local blogs. The Earful Paris, I think it's called.
Sortir à Paris.
Sortir à Paris is a great one too.
Yeah.
Blogs or of course social media channels. My biggest, this is totally biased, but someone who actually lives here is probably going to have a better view on what to do here than maybe someone who has
traveled a lot.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who have traveled here and then make travel guides, which is totally valid. That's their experience. But like what Tessa is saying, someone who lives here and has access to all the places all of the time might have more of a finger on the pulse.
Perspective. Yeah.
Are there any places that you're willing to not gatekeep?
Okay. So I love food. I love restaurants. And there are these very touristy, very Instagram-worthy restaurants all around Paris. Literally just be the top, Google or on TikTok or whatever, the top Paris restaurants. You're going to find the same ones come up over and over and over again. If you want to go to authentic, delicious, affordable food, go to the 10th arrondissement or go to the 11th arrondissement.
Yep.
I recently grabbed a list from, I think it was Sortir à Paris.
Probably.
Anyway, some local guide basically of the top 50 restaurants in Paris. And these are based off of not necessarily Michelin stars, but just really high quality.
Authentic cuisine, good food. Yeah, the vibes right.
Affordable. Yes, great vibes. And I plotted them on a Paris map.
Oh yeah, I remember you did this. Yeah.
Because I was curious. I'm where is the biggest concentration of delicious restaurants? Right? And it was in the 10th, 11th, and the 9th arrondissement a little bit.
Yep.
So those aren't necessarily the most popular areas for tourists to just visit because there's not a lot of those big sites.
The monuments.
You're
not going to see a ton of monuments in any of those arrondissements.
No. But if you want an authentic area to stay in and to feel what it's like to maybe live here, and you also really like great food.
Yeah, that would be a good test driving area.
Totally.
Right? Not literally driving because you don't want to drive here. Tessa will attest to that.
Studying
for the source
I'm studying for my French license right now, and it is a pain. Although I did pass the written
I'm so proud of you.
And now I just have to do the
I love that you
behind the wheel
group chat too.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, everyone celebrate you. Oh, so good. Okay, so that does bring up just back to the whole making recommendations around Paris. Living the authentic experience. Being here, I would love to know your experience about dating Frenchmen. Personally, I do know, but I know that everyone listening really is what is it like to be an American girl, dating the French boys, marrying a French boy? I guess he's a man now, but...
Yeah, he is. he is a man. In his 40s, yes. I think he can be considered a man at this point.
I don't know, actually.
Fair enough. I didn't date that much in the US before coming here. I had a boyfriend and went on a couple of dates, but I wasn't a serial dater before I came here. I was 20. My immediate reaction, and remember, this is back in 2004. This is before dating apps. This is before analog dating. Seriously, you have to meet people IRL. Going out for the first handful of times in France, in Paris, I was shocked at the amount of attention that the French men were giving me. This was not my experience in the US at all.
No, same. Can attest, same in 2024.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So that was like exciting and very validating. And also like kind of, I was like owning my feminine vibe somehow in a different way.
Am I gorgeous?
Am I just a model in France?
I a goddess?
So that was super fun. And especially because, you know, I wasn't looking to settle down at that time. I was looking to have fun and to go out.
That's the best way to approach it too.
Totally. So I dated a lot. I went on lots of dates. I had so much fun. I had a couple of, here's the thing about the different dating culture. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but
you probably have told me.
In the US, you can go on dates with people and you aren't in a relationship. It is
boy, do we know it.
Oh boy, do we know it. And you know, like literally there's this concept of like having a roster of people that you kind of like, you see from time to time, blah, blah, blah. And until you have the DTR, defining the relationship chat.
That's still a thing as far as I know in the US. Yeah.
I that's what I hear. I haven't been on the dating scene for a while now, but until you have that defining the relationship, you are a free agent. And then there's this moment where you're like, okay, like, are we doing this thing? Okay, boyfriend, girlfriend.
There's like an actual conversation, or someone has to like really clarify in words, almost like a spoken legal document.
Almost, yeah.
That like, oh yeah, we're in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not a thing in France. You go on a date with someone and you're their girlfriend. And this was so shocking to me because I didn't have, like, I didn't.
Sure, you had to tell me.
Oh, that's right. I did have to tell you this.
You're why I know this.
I'm like, oh, Dominique. Nobody told me this.
Yeah.
I discovered it because I went out on a date and had a chocolat chaud and then went to Sacré-Cœur and had this really romantic date with this French boy. And then he like kissed me at the end of the night or whatever and was like, okay, well, I don't know. He made some reference about like, t'es ma copine. And I was like,
what?
Fell off my chair. Like, wait, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I just had a stroke. What did you just say? Yeah.
I'm your girlfriend. Like, I had only been like two people's girlfriend in my life up until this point. And now all of a sudden you're like, you're committing to me, because that's like a big step in the US.
Yeah. The word itself, it's like, oh, that's got some weight. We have to talk about this. Yeah.
Totally. And I come to find out that yes, you are like, especially if you have like a kiss or a makeout session, that's kind of like
sealing the deal.
Of, like,
we don't have DTRs here. We just make out.
Yes. He was a very good kisser too. So that was fun. But that was shocking to me. However, the other side of it, the reverse side of the medallion, as they would say in French, is that we dated for like a month. So he was my boyfriend for a month. I was his girlfriend for a month. And then he just kind of started ghosting me.
Oh.
And like didn't show up for a date that we were supposed to go on, and like
yikes.
Yeah.
And then you don't have internet or whatever to be like, where are you?
Exactly. It was just like texting, being like, are you still alive?
WTF, yeah.
And a couple days later he finally showed up. We had a drink and he's like, yeah, so I like, this is kind of done. And so it's like the breakup, which if you're, you know, if you get into this sort of committed conversation with the person that you're dating, okay, well, girlfriend, boyfriend, the breakup is also, it carries weight.
Yeah.
It's really painful. It's sometimes super traumatic, whatever it is. It's a conversation. This felt completely brutal. That I was like, my boyfriend is like all of a sudden like, okay, well, you know, we're done. And it wasn't like, he wasn't mad. We didn't get in a fight. There was no particular
catalyst or anything.
Yeah. It was just like, okay, well, this was fun. So bye. And you're no longer my girlfriend. I was,
and you're like 20, so you're
devastated.
Like, what the fuck?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really have that much experience to begin with.
Totally.
So I'm
the whiplash.
Like, oh, total whiplash.
Yeah.
It was really challenging. So that's a thing.
Yep.
The sort of the levels of commitment are on a different scale here. Neither, I don't know if one is better or worse.
Right, because it's like, it's commitment, but it's light commitment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Casual commitment. And, you know, I'm married to my husband now for coming up on 10 years.
Yay.
Yay. And I just remember when we first started dating, of course, I had dated many people between that first boyfriend and my now husband. but I still remember having the conversation with him and being like, okay, so like, are we like,
so what are we?
And he was like, we've been seeing each other for like a month. Obviously you're my girlfriend. It was, and
you're like, I'm still American, remember?
Yes. He's still to this day, and he's lived in the States for many years, cannot wrap his brain around
that concept.
The concept that you could kiss a woman and not be like, it's not your girlfriend.
Wait, I love that.
It's very sweet.
He's so pure.
He is so pure. He's an absolute hopeless romantic. He's way more romantic than I am.
So Piscean. Yes. I love this for all of us.
Yes, love him.
So we've got like some cultural differences in dating. Yeah. Have you noticed like any major cultural differences? Obviously a lot, but like anything that sticks out to you in particular about California versus here in Paris or French culture in general?
There's definitely like a more chill California vibe. I don't know. Actually, here's a better question, or a better answer, rather. Your question was perfect.
I was like, okay.
here's a better angle to take that on. So I think I have discovered more about the differences in American culture, West Coast versus East Coast.
Yeah.
Different areas around the country, living here. And I heard
like zooming out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And meeting other Americans and meeting other French people who have interacted with other Americans and getting sort of what is their perception of Californians versus people from like New York. Because mostly everyone just assumes like, if you say I'm from the US, they're like, New York.
New York or California.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's like you're from France. Oh, Paris.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think that even me interacting and meeting other people from like the East Coast, I definitely think that there is a more chill California vibe.
Totally.
A little bit more relaxed, a little bit more casual.
Yeah.
I actually do miss that about California, living in Paris. Paris is a big city. It is fast paced for Europe, but compared to like New York, where I've never lived in New York, but I've spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
That feels like manic, hectic, like craziness.
You're taking the words literally out of my brain.
Oh man.
Like this is exactly how I feel. Like New York is so hyper speed. Yeah. And I think I may have said this in like the last episode, like that this is a fast city for other Europeans. This is the New York for a lot of Europeans.
Yeah.
But for us, it feels closer to California.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. We're like very much on the same wavelength here. I feel like California is more my country than the US sometimes.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I think I would, I have moved back to the US and have lived in California. I don't know if I would necessarily choose to live anywhere else in the US. Okay. Maybe New York for a short amount of time just to experience the hectic craziness.
Just the tip, just to see what it's like. I'm so sorry.
That's horrifying. I would like to just experience that because it's such like a huge city, and there's such a like giant world impact like swirling around that city. Yep. For a short amount of time probably is all I could handle. But I love California.
Me too.
I miss it. I miss the vibes.
The vibes.
It really is the vibes.
Yeah. Do you feel it in the South ever? Like when you go to the South of France?
It's definitely more relaxed in the South of France, for sure. And I actually love Provence because it reminds me the topography and the horticulture. I don't know. Yeah. Vegetation.
Totally. The flora and fauna.
The flora and the fauna are very similar to especially Southern California.
Yeah.
I feel so at home in Provence. Totally. It's very dry. The vegetation, the trees, the flowers, etc., are very similar.
It's on brand.
It's cute though. It's cute. I love church bells, honestly.
Cool. On brand. Okay,
on
so
brand.
Dordogne.
So Dordogne is, I think, one of the most underrated regions to visit in Paris. Absolutely love it. They have these beautiful chateaus there. The Dordogne River is so pretty. It's hard to get to, which is one of the reasons that there's not a lot of visitors there.
Okay.
You have to kind of drive there, or you can take the train, but then you absolutely would like need to rent a car. It's not as easy to get to as like, say, taking the TGV to Nice, and you can be.
Oh yeah, they're in like a handful of hours.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Or Marseille, which I just experienced for the first time.
Only like 2.5 hours.
I didn't know that. I was like, oh, we're going to be in a train all day. This is crazy. And then we got there, and I was like, wait, how?
Yeah. Yeah, the Dordogne region doesn't have any TGVs going to it right now. Okay. So it takes like minimum 6 hours.
Dang.
Or like 9 hours in a car.
So you really have to plan for it.
You have to plan for it. But it's gorgeous.
Cool.
Love Dordogne. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Like the whole California, like,
oh, yeah.
If you miss it, we can go back and like clip some of it. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, just in terms of like missing home or noticing cultural differences or like getting a little taste of California, like that seems to do it for you sometimes.
It does. I still miss Mexican food.
Oh, I miss Mexican food so much, so much. California burritos are my favorite. And that's like one of the things I wish I could just wrap up and send here. But have you been to I think it's called Furia?
Furia.
Yeah, next to Saint-Ambroise.
Yeah. I haven't been there. Morgan keeps on telling me that I need to go there.
So it's the first place I've been where I'm like, that's a good taco.
But aren't the tacos like €7 a pop?
They're like California prices, but like La Jolla restaurant, not like,
not like taqueria.
Exactly. Not taqueria prices, but they're not like taqueria tacos. They're like fried cauliflower, like options. They've got good tortillas, which
they're hipster tacos.
Yeah. It's like if you go to a nice Mexican restaurant, like a fancier Mexican restaurant in San Diego, LA, New York, whatever it is, it's still good Mexican food. It's just not like, it's not street tacos. You know what I'm saying?
I really wish there was like
you want the street tacos. I know. But if you need a little bit of a fix, they had also these like frozen margaritas in the summer. They're so good. So if anyone listening right now is like in Paris and jonesing for some Mexican food, that place Furia, I should probably gatekeep it, but it's for my loving community.
That's very, very
on this podcast.
Very magnanimous. I recently I actually did a TikTok about this because I was so stoked to have found dried pinto beans.
Ooh, I saw that.
They're so difficult to find.
Right.
But I found them in this like kind of Mediterranean épicerie, Turkish grocery store, actually. Random. Very random. But I found them. They're called Coco Rose.
Oh, cute.
In French, which is like,
Coco Rose.
So cute.
I love that.
And I made delicious refried beans at home because I was just I needed like a bowl of like refried beans,
bowl of beans
with some crema. What even the heck is that?
Crema.
It was crema.
I'm like, is that Italian?
It was some halfway between two different languages, which of course ended up being like crème fraîche, which is I know it's not crema, but I was just
close
like,
enough when you're here.
A big bowl of beans.
Bowl of beans.
Bowl of beans.
Sometimes you just
and
bowl of beans.
Boy, that was delicious.
Gorge.
And it tore me up. Holy cow. My digestive system is not used to beans anymore.
Like, whoa, it's been a minute. so your bowels are like my sister in Christ.
What are you doing to me?
Babe, what? Oh my God. But yeah, a little taste of home sometimes.
A little taste of home.
Yeah. But in general, you feel at home here.
I feel more at home here sometimes than I do in California.
Me too. It's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah.
The things that I miss about California, my family, obviously, number one, pretty much my whole family is still back in California. Miss Mexican food. That's probably number two.
Yeah. And if not number one, obviously.
Sometimes. And number three is the incredible diversity of California.
Yeah.
The landscapes that
like
you can see topographically and the different type of nature that we have. The diversity of California is absolutely stunning. We have every kind of type of topography, I feel like. Practically. I don't think we have tropical rainforests. That's about it.
Yeah, true. But we've got the desert, we've got the redwoods, we've got the beaches, and like different kinds of beaches.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The really rugged north coast around Mendocino, and then you have, of course, the expansive, gorgeous stretches of sand in Southern California. Like it's really beautiful. And I am very grateful. My husband and I own a Volkswagen camper van in California. And
so Californian.
Very Californian. So when I go home or when I go back to California to visit, I still am weird about like, where is home?
Where is home? Yeah, totally.
I use them interchangeably. Like Paris is home. Sometimes California is home. We always go camping. We go and travel and discover different parts of California. I've discovered more of California being with a Frenchman.
That's so cool.
Than I ever did even growing up there for 20 years.
Wow.
Because he loves, camping and being out in nature and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so he will seek out different spots. And of course I'm like, sure, let's go there. Sure, let's go there. I didn't know about the amazing diversity of California until I was married to a Frenchman.
That's so cool.
I had never even been to Yosemite.
Really?
before I
No way.
was married to Sebastian.
Yosemite's sick.
So Yosemite is my favorite national park. Gorgeous. But
It's
also
so
like
cool.
Burney Falls, Mount Shasta, Mendocino, Joshua Tree, all of these places that I had never really explored, or maybe I had driven through once when I was a kid.
Right.
I'm rediscovering as an adult and through the eyes of a foreign person who is loving California.
That's so cool.
He loves California more than he does Paris, and I love Paris more than I love California.
Do you think he's seeing more of France and Paris through your eyes?
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
And absolutely, like he is discovering more about France, different regions that he had never been to, or like kind of passively as a kid, but doesn't really remember.
Yeah.
I'm like helping him discover those aspects about France. Also, another thing, which is hilarious. I married, I think, the only Frenchman who doesn't like cheese.
What?
At least
like cheese?
he thought he didn't like cheese. He would never eat cheese growing up. And even when we got together now, like 12 years ago or whatever, he would not eat any cheese. Like maybe some Côte. Maybe.
My God.
And since we've been together, I'm like, there's not just stinky cheeses. There's not just blue cheese.
There's some super mild cheese
There's
out
some
here.
amazing cheese. So we started with the like kids cheese.
Cheese Junior.
Cheese Junior, very mild, like chèvre.
Okay.
And he has slowly working himself up to some pretty robust cheeses now. And now he's a cheese fan. Yeah.
I'm so proud of him and you for shepherding him on this journey.
So I think
the cheese shaman.
He would rather, I mean, I swear, I married the only Frenchman who like would prefer to eat peanut butter like over cheese.
Damn.
And he loves spicy things.
I mean, it sounds like a match made in heaven, honestly.
We're a very interesting couple, I think, from the outside when you just explore that.
I love it.
We really impact each other positively and also probably not so positively sometimes about like our different cultural aspects and appreciations.
But it's such a beautiful testimony for a cross-cultural international marriage of like the way that you have expanded each other's worlds.
Yeah, I think so.
I love it. Thank you for sharing such a personal story. I know you're not really personal on the on the réseau, but
all good, all for you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, learning all these new things about France and Paris, because, he's lived here his whole life. You do that for so many people. You open everyone's eyes with a lot of fun facts. And this is one of my favorite things that we get to talk about is the fun little things like your Qu'est-ce que c'est series, getting into like niche history moments, like little bits that just like really bring the city to life for me in a different way. And before we hopped on the mic, we were talking about the history of Paris plumbing and like when people started getting their toilets installed, which doesn't seem like it'd be interesting, but think about it. Like, stay with me here. You live in Paris. You live in Paris and like indoor plumbing is not a thing. And then all of a sudden, someone invents a toilet. Who is it? I can't say. I haven't researched the history of toilets. But all of a sudden, someone's putting a toilet in a closet here. Hence the birth of the water closet, right? The WC is born.
Yep.
And I started thinking about this because I noticed all the odd placements of toilets in people's apartments and different buildings here. Like they really are just kind of stashed into like what would be maybe a linen closet. What was that process like? And I'm asking you as if you know, and I know you don't.
I am not a toilet historian, just so that we're clear. But I am a collector of weird and random and obscure facts.
Yeah.
I love this kind of stuff.
Love the facts.
And I'm the type of person that you do not want to get cornered with at a party because you'll start talking about something and I'll be like, oh, did you know?
Yeah.
And here's a random fact.
And if it's two of us, it goes on for 6 hours.
So true. Okay, so you've been to my house.
Yep.
My water closet is quite literally kind of hidden behind this mirrored door in my entryway.
The perfect example for this topic.
Yes. And it's like first of all, there are no right angles in my entire apartment.
Nope, not a single one.
Weird corners and rounded edges and stuff. I don't know. It's crazy.
It's like your first time playing Sims and building a house.
Yes, exactly.
It's really pretty.
I love my apartment, but it's very random.
Yeah.
Okay, so
there's like a toilet basically stashed by the front door.
Yes. You walk in the front door and then there's a panel of mirrors and that's where the toilet is. And it's quite literally just the toilet. There is no sink. I have 2 other bathrooms in my apartment. Neither of them have toilets.
But they do have the sinks.
They have sinks and baths and showers. That is, I would say, pretty typical of an old Parisian apartment where it's like you will have, first of all, the bathroom.
Yep.
The washroom.
There's a room with a bath in it.
A room with a bath or a shower. The washroom is separate to the toilet.
which would be
room.
like a water closet here, which quite literally makes sense because it feels like a little closet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very typical. And to have them, sometimes they're next to each other, like in your place.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a new building. You live in a house, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's old. I think my building was built in 1851.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was torn down and rebuilt in like the 80s. Maybe? Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. But you're totally right about like they just seem stuck in random places.
Mm-hmm.
And why wouldn't you? And in fact, I have my 2 bathrooms in my apartment. They have room for a toilet.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice to be
just
able
have
to
it there?
have the toilet there and also have 2 toilets because I have 2 bathrooms. Why can't you just do that? Well, there is a reason for it.
Look at you with the logic and facts.
So there is typically one main pipe in the building that is going to be for black water, so sewage.
Okay.
And it's usually run sort of straight through the middle. So like all of the apartments stacked on top of each other in my building are all on the same.
There's a main vein for
pipe.
the poops.
Yes, main poop vein.
Okay.
And it's a much larger pipe, obviously, black water.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have gray water pipes, so that will feed your kitchen sink, your shower, etc. Okay. The gray water pipes will run to the bathrooms, and those are a lot easier because they're a lot smaller. So they can kind of retrofit it to different areas much easier than the sewage pipe. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, there's usually only one toilet in these old buildings.
Yeah. Because there's only like one connection.
Because there's only one connection.
The black water. Okay, got it.
You might see from time to time, and in chambre de bonne, or if people have retrofitted, like I have a friend who bought a Haussmannian apartment and they redid it and wanted to have specifically 2 toilets. Yeah. They had the main one on the sewage main.
Right.
And then they installed what's called a saniboyeur.
Okay.
Have you experienced this yet?
No.
Okay.
Not us getting into a toilet talk.
I know. It's interesting, though, because I feel like everyone at one point or another goes to a friend who lives in a chambre de bonne or whatever. They flush the toilet, and it makes this, I'm not exaggerating, whale sound. It sounds like...
like dial-up internet for your toilet.
Kind of.
Oh my gosh.
It's so loud. It sometimes like vibrates, and you're like, what is even happening? A saniboyeur is essentially, this is so disgusting and ingenious. It is a garbage disposal for your poops.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And they install those in areas where they don't have a sewage main because it makes
you can compact it yourself.
You can compact it yourself, and you can use the gray water pipes, basically. So if you ever experience...
Holy shit, literally. Oh my God.
If you ever experience going to the bathroom in someone's home, this is not in like hotels and stuff like that. So if you're ever like renting a place or a Airbnb or something like that, and the toilet is making crazy noises, either it's broken or it's a saniboyeur.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. You learn something new every day.
You're welcome.
Well, we're speaking of the eau de toilette, but let's maybe pivot into actual eau de toilette.
Actual eau de toilette.
One of our favorite topics is perfume.
Oh, I have to share this with you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, sorry. Just way too excited about this. But okay, do you know why it's called eau de toilette?
Please tell me.
And even the word toilet.
Yeah.
Which of course comes from toilette.
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting. So back in Louis the 14th, who had
Roi de Soleil?
The Roi de Soleil,
yeah,
had such a huge impact on French culture, even today.
Yeah,
he was one of the first people who established like specific rules of court and people helping him with his toilettes.
King of the vibes, really.
King of the vibes. I mean, he was vibing like hardcore. He was also the longest reigning ruler of all time.
Monarch history?
Monarch history. Amazing. Even longer than Queen Elizabeth II.
I had no idea. That's so cool.
So anyway, Louis and his like court, all of these people who were basically replicating what he was doing, they would have toilettes happen every morning to, get ready. And they didn't have bathrooms at the time. They would have a chamber pot or the throne, or they would, so they didn't have like these areas of like, this is where you go to get ready. This is where you go to be barbered. This is where you like, that room specifically. It would be in their bedroom, and their, courtiers or whatever would come in, and they would have all the implements and all the tools on this piece of cloth that they would then roll out, kind of like a barber situation. Totally. Okay, let's think about this for a second. The word toile in French.
Oh, fabric. Like
means fabric.
Tissue, yeah.
And this is a small piece of fabric that they would roll out with all the implements.
Oh.
Et is a diminutive in French. So it is a small cloth, toilette.
Yeah.
And so this idea of toilette was not like where you would go
to a toilet.
To
it was a small cloth.
It was a small cloth
preparation.
Exactly.
Hygiene. Okay.
Hygiene.
Nice.
And then it has slowly transformed into, okay, this process of getting yourself clean, this process of going to use the restroom.
Get ready with me.
Yes.
14th, not 14th. It was 17th century?
The 17th century.
1600s,
yeah.
Get
Exactly.
ready with me in the
17th century. So yes, isn't that fascinating? I love learning like where these words come from.
Okay, yeah. So we're getting some French history. We're learning about literally the word toilet.
Yep.
The OG Get Ready With Me with the Roi de Soleil, and the origin of eau de toilette.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about eau de Cologne first.
Okay, so we've got the different tiers. A lot of men specifically think they only wear cologne.
Yeah.
That's one type. That's like not a distillation, but a concentration level of perfume. So you've got eau de cologne, eau de toilette, eau de parfum, and then like an extrait or like an actual parfum, right? Okay.
Sort of. I think eau de toilette is actually has a lower concentration than eau de cologne.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea.
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe fact check that. But and then yes, you have eau de parfum, and then parfum, and then extrait.
Yeah, like super concentrated. Yeah. So eau de cologne.
So eau de cologne is, which it literally means water from cologne, or I think it's Kölschenwasser in German.
Okay, because it comes from Cologne, Germany.
Yeah, Köln, which I have spent a lot of time there too. Love Cologne. And it was initially created by an Italian immigrant who went to Cologne, and he was using the bergamot and the neroli and the different scents that you could find in the area of Cologne. And he said, this reminds me of the water in like the Italian countryside and the rivers and stuff like that.
Yeah, because bergamot and neroli are also in that region as well. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, that's why a lot of colognes are so citrusy.
Exactly.
Wow, I love that. Because if you think about like most colognes and something that is fresher and doesn't last as long, they're usually a citrus. Like even Chanel has a perfume called Eau de Cologne. It is like a neroli citrus, like just fresh.
It's mostly head notes, right?
Yeah. And those things, like for anyone who doesn't know, they don't last as long because those molecules evaporate more quickly. Just the structure of the molecule, it's the first thing to evaporate, which is why they are considered head notes. So if the bulk of the perfume is all of those notes, it's just going to be a very fresh, quick thing that you're going to. Yes. You apply it throughout the day because this is not like a heavier, longer lasting, something that has like, ambergris or oud, something heavier that's going to stick to the skin for a lot longer and not evaporate as quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can still see like in pharmacies and even in the grocery store in Paris, you can see these like almost half-liter bottles of eau de toilette.
Yeah.
Some of the older French people that I have known in my life, usually like my the parents of friends or whatever, some of them, they grew up in the 1950s and the 1960s, and they would cleanse themselves with eau de toilette on a daily basis.
Oh my God.
They're parts that needed cleansing. And
without water.
Without water.
Oh my God.
And then they would take a bath like once a week.
Oh my God. The French shower. That's where it comes from.
And also, something that has gone out of popularity, but I wish we could bring back, the freaking bidet.
Yeah.
Bidets are awesome.
Yeah.
They are so wonderful to feel fresh and clean. And it's really only in Western society
that we don't use it.
That we don't use water to cleanse ourselves after we use the bathroom.
Why?
I don't know. They're still really, really popular in like pretty much every rental that I've gone to in Italy.
I was going to say every time I'm in Italy, there's a bidet.
Yeah. And even like hotels and stuff like that.
Everywhere.
In France.
Even in the old hotels.
Yes.
Like old Airbnbs, old hotels, there's always a bidet.
And I love the bidet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make bidets great again.
So yes, and then to finish the cologne conversation. So eventually the eau de cologne, which was by this Italian immigrant in Germany, was it was passed down to the Rosé et Gallet brothers.
Okay.
Who were a French perfume house based in Paris in the mid 1800s or something like that.
So cool.
And that the eau de Cologne Rosé Gallet, you can still buy it in like the pharmacy across the street.
Yeah, you can get it at Monoprix, you can get it at the pharmacy, which I didn't know this was such a storied fragrance house because of its accessibility, which is such a sad thing. Like, oh, it's accessible, so it must not be important.
I know. It feels like this cheap, like, I don't know, Target brand almost.
It really does feel like it's basically like a French Target brand. Like they have a store on Rue Saint-Honoré.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they have like it's across from, I can't remember what the church is called. It's really close to Palais Royal.
I don't know.
Yeah, me either. Anyway.
I'm going to have to look at the map.
But they have a store there and you can get like the bar soaps and all of that. But it's interesting that it was Rosé and Gallet and then Guerlain, and they went kind of two different directions. Guerlain is like very inaccessible.
Yes.
Super expensive.
Super high-end.
And then Rosé and Gallet is like you can get it at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
But it was the original. And you were saying they own like the patent or?
So yes, they it's the recipe basically for the original eau de cologne that was originally created by this Italian guy. I can't remember his name. Jean-Marie something.
Okay, we're going to look into this.
Yeah.
But this whole conversation came up because Tessa was using my hand soap from Rosé and Gallet.
And I was like, I love it so much. My favorite Rosé and Gallet fragrances are the fig.
Yep, the fleur de figue.
And the orange, fleur d'oranger.
I have that soap as well.
I love.
I'm sorry. I have Bois d'Orange. I think.
Oh, Bois d'Orange is a great one.
Yeah, it's like an orange wood versus like orange blossom, but I love both of them. Kind of like citrusy, fresh, natural. This is like the Venn diagram part of what we like in fragrance. Tessa and I have different fragrance styles.
Yes.
However, we've recently also merged over a very special fragrance that I'm reaching for behind me.
Oh my gosh. Can I smell it?
Yeah, of course. We now have a twin perfume together. Thank you to my beautiful friends for this birthday gift.
It's so complex and deep. Even just smelling the pump.
Just from like the nozzle. So this is, we talked about it in another episode, Amouage, Guidance 46, Guidance 46, if you want to make fun of us saying it in French.
Why are people weird about that?
I know, it's so funny. I have a friend who's been roasting me about it.
Really?
Just like as a joke because someone commented.
Like that is not an important conversation that we need to have.
Actually, I think it is an important conversation to have that not making fun of someone, but like being like, why do you say it like that? You sound pretentious or like whatever it is. Well, it's like for people who live in a country in which they don't speak their native tongue every day, sounding correct is actually very important. It's a big emphasis. Like we were just talking for like an hour about learning a language to integrate with a culture and to connect with people. And correct pronunciation is a big part of it, especially if you're trying to blend in here and not be spotted as a foreigner, which for better or for worse, every place has xenophobia and France has xenophobia, right? And there are people who will just blindly discriminate against people from other cultures, especially American. Not everyone's like that. And I know plenty of people here who are so kind to Americans. They love our culture. They love us. Like they're just genuinely good people. But if you're really trying to blend in somewhere, you do want to say something correctly. So picking apart someone's speech for pronouncing something in a language that they're kind of, I want to say basculating. This is my switching back and forth between is such a weird thing to jump on.
Yeah, very counterproductive.
Yeah.
And I think just silly because, yes, I did a TikTok recently where I talked about amouage and I said amouage guidance 46 in the TikTok and someone like came in and was like, you don't have to say it like in French. And I'm like, I bought it at a French store in French. France, in French. Like that was my experience with this brand up until this point. I know it's not a French brand. It's from Oman.
But the name is supposed to be, it's a blend of words. It's supposed to be the word for wave, I want to say, in Arabic. No, amouage.
Oh,
and amour. It's like love wave. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. I didn't know that.
Someone in my TikTok commented that.
Oh, great.
But then I got the same thing as you. Someone in my TikTok was like, your accent's pretentious. And I'm like, by pretentious, do you mean pretty much correct?
I don't know. People have too much time on their hands these days.
What do you want? Too much time on their hands. But I love that we've had this like passion for fragrance together and a desire to deepen our knowledge well.
One of my favorite things is going perfume shopping. And especially with you because you like have the same like tolerance level if we can spend hours.
Totally. The whole day.
Yep. The other day, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm looking for this wedding guest outfit. I'm going to a wedding. I spent half my day shopping unsuccessfully. I was getting to the point where I'm like, I'm going to bite someone. I'm so like over it. Trying on stuff, feeling not cute, like whatever it is. couldn't find something that I wanted. And then I went by like a Sephora
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, you know what?
I'm just going to
sniff some stuff to make myself feel better. And it did. I spent like 45 minutes in the Sephora smelling all the different things that I knew very well, things that I've owned, but also new things.
Yep.
And it really, like, it brought down my, like,
cortisol levels.
Yes,
Yeah.
like immediately.
It resets your brain a little bit.
Oh my gosh. I really believe in the power of aromatherapy. And I mean, obviously like essential oils and stuff like that, but perfumes to me has a therapeutic effect.
Absolutely. And such an emotional quality to it. Like I was just also playing hostess for my cousins who were just here. And my one cousin was like, I need a perfume. I need your help. Obviously, like I'm the right cousin to go to for this.
Fun.
And she's like, of course I want to get one here in Paris. And I was like, well, you're going to want one from, a Parisian house. Yeah. You're going to get it for less money here. If it's over 100, you're going to get your little VAT tax refund. So this is like the perfect time to do it. And if you smell it here for the first time and you wear it here for like the couple days that you're here, every time that you smell this fragrance, you're going to be immediately transported to your first trip to Paris. I'm like crying telling her this. This is like such a sentimental thing to be able to share that with someone, especially family. So I brought her to Guerlain naturally. Nice. We went to the Champs-Élysées store. She was like, I like Marc Jacobs Daisy. And I was like, I know. And
let's try this.
And I was like, you're going to like this one. And I grabbed her a floral one that I really like from their like Aqua Allegoria collection. She tried a couple versions of it, a few other ones, but she was like, yep, that's the one. She wore it all day. She was like, this is the one. We come back. They engraved a little Eiffel Tower for her on the bottle. They treated her like a princess. She got the whole thing. They gave her a little sample of it so she didn't have to unpackage her new thing for customs or whatever. So she got to spritz it on while we were at dinner, while she went up to the Sacré-Cœur. And so now my hope is every time that she's back in the US and smells this perfume, she's brought back to a very special memory. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I love fragrance so much.
Totally.
You told me last year, so Tessa sometimes helps me not spiral. A very daunting task for anyone, like quite harrowing. But last year I was like, I got to find the perfect perfume. And she was like, bitch, why? She didn't say bitch. She was much more nice than that. But actually, like, why does it need to be the perfect thing? I was trying to find whatever like the one thing is for me. And I'm like, how do I do this? And she was like, you don't have to find the one thing. Tessa, you told me just find the right one for this season, your first winter in Paris. And you want to know what happened? I picked a perfume that I absolutely love. And now I unboxed my coats and all of my winter clothes.
Gosh.
And I got a whiff and I was immediately taken back to my first winter in Paris. Like it's not a conscious or voluntary thing. It's just an immediate transport. It's like time travel. Yes. I inhaled and I was in a moment last winter and it was so special. And I thank you so much for that advice because welcome. One, it kept me from spiraling and trying to find one perfect thing. And two, it created such a special memory. So,
well, I was so sad for you to every day that was passing and you weren't wearing a perfume that you enjoyed.
Yep.
Was a missed opportunity to anchor your sensual memory back to that moment.
Yep. Oh, sensual memory. Such a good one.
Yeah.
And it is such a cerebral Venus and Libra. Thank you for your Venus and Libra energy.
You're very welcome.
It's like the beauty of things, but also from like a logical place. Yeah. I feel like that's your vibe.
Yeah. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. You can like logic into something that is beautiful.
Yes.
Or like derive the logic from something that is beautiful.
Yes. But you know what that prevents me from doing sometimes? And something I'm trying to tap into a little bit more. And thanks to your help is to listen to my own intuition.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I logic myself out of even being able to hear my intuition.
Right.
And I think I have good intuition. And also like, I mean, everyone's intuition is good, right? Because that's like where your soul is leading you and where you should be going. But if you tend to be overly logical or overly intellectualize things,
and you suppress that.
You suppress it.
Yeah.
So I'm in this like phase where I'm really trying to listen to my intuition a little bit better.
It's more your feminine logic.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Listen to like the more Venus. So like, I think of the Venus sign. Sorry, now I'm going to like an astrology thing. I think of like Venus at home in Taurus as very like grounded in the body, sensual. And Venus in Libra is more of like, it's air. It's the mind, like what's pleasing through the mind senses versus the like tactile physical senses. And it's like, what if we can learn to ground more into that more Taurus energy where we're feeling in our physical bodies?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Something to think about for all of us today.
Yeah, I think so.
Is there anything else that you want to leave people with who might be listening, wanting to either visit Paris, move to Paris, like make this journey?
Actually, I have some questions for you.
Oh, damn. Okay. This has not happened on this show.
It's going to be quick fire this or that.
Oh my God. Okay. This is not what I did not expect this.
Okay. So for anyone who has like lived in Paris or spent time in Paris, these are sort of related to that.
Okay.
And now that you've been here for over a year.
Oh my God, you have questions written?
Yeah.
She just busted out a notebook. I'm sitting here like shaking in my boots.
So don't overthink it.
Okay.
This is just quite literally this or that based off of your experience.
Oh my God, it's like Vogue 70 questions.
Exactly.
Wow.
Okay. There's 13 questions.
Okay.
Okay.
My 13th reason. I'm so sorry.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Metro or bus?
Metro.
Côte d'Azur or Paris?
Oh. Oh, you got me with the second one. Côte d'Azur. Oh.
Côte d'Azur. Oh my gosh, see? Okay.
Not
I
for a
can't
while.
believe that.
Not for a while, but
Okay.
Okay.
Croissant or baguette?
Croissant.
White or rosé?
I used to say rosé. I think I have been changed. I think I'm a puis fumé, puis frisé girly.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
white.
it's definitely...
That's white for anyone who doesn't know what I just said.
I think it's a little bit more refined than the rosé.
Yeah, I used to be just rosé, and now I'm like, wow, again, an unexpected answer. Cool.
Left bank or right bank?
I'm just going to do...
I mean, you live on which bank?
I technically live on the right bank.
Yes.
People have confused it for left based on its vibe.
Yeah, I mean, understandable. But what would you say? Left bank?
Right bank.
Right bank? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a right bank girly, I think.
Ah, okay. You're gonna use it.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't moved to Saint-Germain-des-Prés yet.
Not quite yet. Emily in Paris or 10%?
Oh.
Which is call my agent?
Call my agent. Yeah.
Call your agent in English.
Oh, that is a really hard one because they're so different.
Mm-hmm.
One is my trash TV and one is my French learning comedy. 10%.
Nice.
You say 10 or 10?
10%.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, you're asking me like the grammatical. Okay, 10
yeah.
as like by
Separate.
itself,
Yeah.
you would say 10.
Yeah.
If it is followed by some other like modifier, maybe
Like pourcent.
I don't know. I'm just making this up.
Okay. 10%.
But it's definitely 10%.
Okay. I've been saying it wrong for a while.
That's
See,
okay.
you learn something new every day.
Dior or Chanel?
Ooh. Recently, Dior, but I think I have to rest on my, like, I've loved Miss Coco since I was a small child.
For fashion or perfumes or both?
Kind of like the history of like the how, like what it meant for like fashion and style and history. But, I might be changing. It's always been Chanel. Like I've always been a Chanel girly, but like I've spent a lot of time at the Dior Museum.
I see you more Dior.
Really? What about it?
I think the vibe, there's a certain amount of, this is going to sound really pretentious, classic modernity.
Okay.
That I think Chanel is very classic.
Yeah, it's like historical. Yeah.
Dior obviously is a historical house too, but it has, I don't know.
A playful element almost.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's why I've been gravitating toward it recently, and just vibes in general. Like this is just me manifesting. I'm like, I would love to work with Dior in some capacity.
That would be awesome.
Ugh, love it.
Okay. Heels or sneakers?
Heels.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I like on a daily basis, I'm not wearing them, but I so prefer wearing a heel. It's really hard with the cobblestones.
Yeah.
But like, and you can't see them here, but my heeled boots that I got from Rouge, they're my favorite shoes, and they're comfortable.
Yeah. That's good to know. Brasserie or restaurant?
Ooh. Brasserie.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. It's like more lively sometimes. I mean, it depends on the restaurant.
Yeah,
right?
of
But
course.
like, I just feel like the vibes are fun.
It's definitely a Parisian vibe. Brasserie, yeah. Café crème or cappuccino?
Cappuccino.
Nice.
Italian girly.
Italian through and through. Charcuterie or fromage?
Ooh, charcuterie.
Yum. I love charcuterie.
Yeah.
It's not the best.
It's not
healthy.
It's not healthy.
healthy.
And I didn't used to eat pork for like 6 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then I tried a saucisson sec. And I was like, one of the mini saucissons.
Changed your life.
Truly, I was here on a trip. We were on the night train between Paris and Nice. And we were like, there's for sure dinner on this train, right? Narrator, no, there was not dinner. And so we hadn't eaten dinner. And I was starving. And it was with my friend Tyler. And I was like, Tyler, I need you to go to the snack cart and pull a Harry Potter on them and be like, we'll take the lot. Like whatever they have, I need you to buy it. And he was like, slay. So he goes over. I hold down the fort and our, like, we had a couchette because it was the night train. And he comes back with a bag. He's like, they've got like apple juice, like crackers and whatever this is. And I was like, meat? That's so weird. And I had one bite and I was like, I guess I eat pork now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So charcuterie changed me in a way.
Have you heard the expression, tout est bon dans le cochon?
Everything's good in a pig. I can't think about pigs because it hurts my heart so much.
I know. So my first job was actually raising pigs, like swine. Yeah. For slaughter, which is really sad, but
oh my God.
Great experience. And I love pigs. I think they're so sweet. Yeah. They're like dogs.
That's why I didn't eat pork for so long.
They are also delicious. I really hate to say this out loud, but I really do enjoy pork, and saucisson sec. Excellent.
Yeah, it's elite.
Have you tried rillettes?
No. Ooh, is that the next step? The final frontier?
No, I think it's like mid level, because there are some final frontier charcuterie that even I won't eat, because it's like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, andouillette.
Like, yeah, I was going to say like the blood sausage stuff. I'm like, nah.
Yeah. But rillettes, specifically rillette au Mont, is potted pork. And it's this like...
Is it like a pâté?
It's way better than pâté in my experience.
All right.
I mean, in my opinion, whatever. I think it's super delicious. Next time you come over, I'll get some rillettes and you can try it.
Beautiful.
They also do rillettes from duck and from goose.
Oh,
but my favorite is the pork.
Cool.
Okay. Buttes-Chaumont or Luxembourg Garden?
Ooh. I think I like Luxembourg. That's such a tough one. I know this is such a bad answer of questions.
Don't think.
Luxembourg.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've taken like Stella to Buttes-Chaumont.
I love Buttes-Chaumont. That was a really hard one for me because I'm like picnicky, like Buttes-Chaumont all the way. Like I love a picnic at Buttes-Chaumont, but I think I just really like the vibe of walking through. Like I love the fountains. I love the history. Yeah. It's sort of like the Chanel answer where it's like, oh, but like it's such a pillar. It's like it's such an icon of French culture in my mind.
Okay. Perfume shopping or wine tasting?
Perfume shopping.
Yeah.
That one's the easiest one to answer.
Figured. Okay, that's it.
That was amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've never had a guest come on and interview me, so that's incredible.
Well, you have so much amazing knowledge to share, and your experience also in Paris is very different from mine.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to explore that as well.
Wait, so did you answer those questions for yourself?
No.
Do you want to?
I can do this rapid fire.
Yeah.
I think. Okay. So... Metro or bus? Bus all day, every day.
You love bus.
I love bus.
I love bus.
I love bus. I have bus. I love the bus. You actually get to see Paris.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more confusing and sometimes longer, but I am a huge bus fan.
You took me on my first bus ride like a month ago.
That's true.
Yeah, so I don't know bus yet.
You don't know bus yet.
Bus is new.
Bus is new, but you should get to know bus.
Okay.
Yeah. Côte d'Azur or Paris? Ooh, Paris.
I know.
That's hard.
Yeah.
But Paris, for now.
I said Côte d'Azur because it's raining today. So my answer could change tomorrow.
Croissant or baguette? Croissant for me.
Yeah, butter all the way.
Yes. White or rosé? So I don't drink anymore.
Right.
But I would say white when I was still enjoying wine. Left bank or right bank? Right bank.
Mm-hmm. You're a right bank girly.
I'm a right bank girly. I have lived on both banks, but I prefer the right bank.
I think I'll age into left bankism.
That makes sense. Emily in Paris or 10%? 10%,
yeah.
For sure. Dior or Chanel? Dior.
You're a Dior girly. Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to choose like of the main fashion houses though, probably Saint Laurent.
Oh, I was going to say Schiaparelli.
Oh, love that.
You're such a Schiaparelli girl.
Oh, yeah. Love that for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it sounds Italian, but she was French, right? Yeah. She was here. She was like hanging with Coco Chanel.
She was for sure like here.
Yeah. She was like Chanel's sort of rival, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I need to do a little more fashion research.
Yeah, a little bit more. Heels or sneakers? So for quite literally about 3 years of my experience in Paris, I only wore heels. I had to wear them for work. And I also love heels.
That seems sexist.
It's super sexist.
Yeah.
And I also love heels. I love the look of them. I love my Louboutin. I love heels. And I wore them exclusively. And I destroyed my calf muscles. Because like the one day that I was like, I'm going to wear flat shoes and walk around to
It was like when Barbie's feet fall.
It was awful.
Flat feet.
It was so bad. And so these days I'm more of a sneaker girl, but I do love to pull out my heels.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a style girl. Like,
thank you.
You're this girl. You're that girl. You're all the girls. Barbie is everything.
Yes. Brasserie or restaurant? I'm going to go with restaurant.
Okay.
I do like a brasserie vibe, but restaurant, probably is what I prefer these days. Café crème over a cappuccino.
Oh, okay.
I do like a café crème. Charcuterie or fromage. This is probably the hardest one for me.
Okay.
Because I love both.
I love cheese too. I'm like, give me a camembert. Like, love.
But I'm going to go with charcuterie.
Yeah.
In my market that I go to practically every other day, the people that I frequent the most, and like they literally know my tastes at this point. They know my first name. They know like everything about me. My cheese guy, my charcuterie guy, and then the fruits and vegetable guy.
Yeah. I know the market you're talking about.
Yes.
I'm like, I see it. But the Libra in me is, I'm just like, blanche mix.
Buttes-Chaumont or Luxembourg Gardens.
Buttes-Chaumont for sure.
For sure. And then perfume shopping or wine tasting. Well, perfume shopping.
Obviously perfume.
Yeah. All day, every day.
That was a fun questionnaire. I hope everyone at home does it.
Yeah. Answer for yourself.
Oh my God. Tessa, it has been the honor of a lifetime to have you on This Is Fine.
Hooray!
Did you have some fun?
I had so much fun.
Yeah.
I'm even more fine than I was when we started.
Extra fine.
Extra fine.
That's the whole thing. If you're smiling 1% more than you were at the beginning of this combo, then mission accomplished.
This was so much fun.
Thank you for being a part of our community.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for being my friend.
Thank you for being my friend. I'll see you next time.
Okay.
I'll talk to you like literally right now. We will all collectively see you next time. Merci, ma copine.
Merci.
Thank you again for joining us, babes. If you want to play this or that game with us, I wrote down all the questions in the episode description, and you can share your answers with us on the socials, on Spotify, or via email. I'm fine at thisisfinepodcast.com. We'll be back here next week with more fun and things to learn and talk about. I am sending you huge hugs and gros bisous. À bientôt. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of This Is Fine. I've been your host, Dominique Michelle Astorino. We're based in San Diego, recording in studio at DLI Productions in Paris, Pacific Beach, with Emmy Award-winning sound designer Dan De La Isla. This is a comedy and advice podcast, but for legal reasons, this entire podcast is a joke and none of it is medical advice. To download the transcript or learn more, visit thisisfinepodcast.com.